Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Aravaipa Rides podcast. I'm your race director, Aaron. I've got a special guest with us today, Jared Becker from Becker. It's not Becker Fitness. I'm starting to say Becker Fitness, but
ReEvolve,
ReEvolve.
rebranded.
But yeah, he's a mountain biker, mountain bike racer, trainer. Does a whole bunch of different things. So Jared, welcome. I'll worry about the title later, I guess.
There you go.
We'll just welcome you as the person. Welcome to the episode.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here and check the headquarters out.
Yeah.
And excited to be here.
Very cool. So I kind of found you, I think it was just Instagram scrolling at some point, like your name came across on some stuff, mountain biking related, of course. Saw that you were local and whatnot, and kind of just dug into you just as I would for any kind of person that looked interesting local, and then saw this other stuff. So we'll get to all of it, but let's start talk about, I guess we should back up first off and just a little bit about you, maybe who you are, how you came to be here, maybe how you got into mountain biking, and then we can kind of go into the biking.
Kind of a crazy story.
That's
actually.
good. See, that's the way. That's how we like it.
Actually, haven't been in the mountain bike world that long. It's kind of wild. So, I grew up in a super small town in Michigan, and pretty much grew up racing dirt bikes and then rode BMX bikes.
Yeah.
And mainly riding dirt bikes. I didn't start racing till I was 16, just because I had to pay for it. So it was really that. So when I was 16, I had a job and I could pay for it. And then I always rode BMX. So was that little kid just living on my bike all summer long.
Nice.
Just wake up in the morning, go ride my bike with my buddies and build jumps around town till 9 o'clock at night, and then come home and do it the next day. So kind of had the classic childhood there. And then raced BMX, started racing that at 14, and then I actually turned professional in that at 21, and that is what brought me to Phoenix.
Okay.
So at the time, the pros were racing what's considered like a supercross style track, which has a really big starting hill, and it was just a track specifically for pros. And at the time, there was only one here and one in San Diego. So
track, that is.
That style of track. Okay. And so obviously to be competitive, I wanted to be out in a place where I could ride that. Because it was so different than a standard track. You just really needed repetition on it.
Yep.
And I kind of was bouncing and then kind of looked at San Diego, like San Diego would be pretty sweet. And then the cost of living was just so crazy. It's like Phoenix it is. And so yeah, that brought me here. That was 2010. October of 2010. And then, raced BMX, retired from that in 2016, unfortunately, with just an injury. I was already kind of planning to step away, but the universe gave me my sign half a season early, and got in just a bad crash on a practice night, got tangled up with someone over a jump and exploded both my wrists.
Yikes.
And so that was kind of my farewell of like I said, I was already kind of, at that time I was 29, which is kind of an old guy in that sport. Truthfully. It's if anyone doesn't know anything about BMX, it's very short and explosive, right? So races for pros are usually 30 to 35 seconds, and it's just all out. And if there's even this much of an opportunity, you get up in there. So, and it's one thing to do that when you're 21, but when you're 29, you're like, I don't know. I'd rather not hit the ground. So, anyways, so that was really my transition. I always kind of knew I would get into mountain biking. I never really planned to race it, but I think I just still had that super competitive nature in me. And I literally remember running Phoenix Mountain Preserve with 2 casts on my hands, I'm training for mountain bikes now.
Okay.
Still broken. And I just at that time still was super motivated to train. And, it was kind of how I had always found myself, was just through training hard.
Yep.
And so then that would have been 2017, I started racing mountain bikes. And of course, it was a pretty natural fit. I mean, I had really all I had to do was get endurance.
Okay.
I was very strong, very explosive, and but my bike handling skills were good because that's what BMX is. Yeah. So it's just well, if I can figure out how to do this for a really long time, I can probably be pretty good. And I so just kind of hammered on the endurance and did that. And then, I raced amateur for a couple of years and then turned pro mountain bike late 2019.
Okay.
And then just kind of played that. And unfortunately, I always, looking back on it, because now I don't really race anymore. I just kind of ride for fun.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, as a coach, of course, I know numbers and power and da-da-da. Like,
Yeah.
I was really, really tuned up because I was motivated. My team I was riding for, everything was good. I was like super tuned up and ready for race season, and then COVID hit. And it was kind of like
Right.
the whole mountain biking world just kind of like plummeted. And it was just like, dang, I actually truthfully kind of feel like I never got my shot to like really go for it, because that March, I remember March 2020 was when like my team had a training camp, and it was just like I was putting out my best numbers. It was like, here we go. Like, I'm finally gonna be able to go to it. And then it was like a year and a half of pause, and I kind of lost my fire with that a little bit.
Did you? Okay.
I did. And then, you know, I mean, also at that time, I don't know, I'm losing track of my years, but you know, just got a little older and just was kind of like, yeah, I'm just kind of having more fun.
Yeah.
Because, which is something I want to get back. I'm going all over. Sorry.
No,
well,
hey,
something
right.
I want to jump back to later in my life is like, I've always been so like ultra competitive.
Okay.
That I kind of hindsight look back on, I'm like, man, maybe that took some of the fun out of it for me. You know what I mean?
Sure.
To where it's like, I think I need to like return back in another eventually and be like, hey, I'm just here to have some fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, that goes to some other stuff, but I think it's like I always felt like I had something to prove. So it's like, I want to be, if I'm doing it, I'm full in, and I'm going to be super dialed in and ready to go.
Gotcha.
But you know, with that can come some burnout sometimes.
Yep. So. Yeah, absolutely. What do they say? Like the brightest flame, right? It burns out quick. So
it does for sure.
It definitely works for endurance or even other sports, right? I mean, you can be basketball, whatever. You can be all in and burn out a lot quicker too. So I get it. So which team were you racing for? Mountain bike?
It was CZ Racing, Construction Zone Racing. So they actually that team fizzled out a couple of years ago.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it was an awesome team. They were actually local to here.
Okay.
And yeah, great people, great team. I was super fortunate to get on it. I got on it shortly actually after I even started. I think they kind of saw that maybe I had a little potential, and actually, it's a crazy story. I was at an MBAA race, and I think I was like brand new, so I think I was racing like intermediate.
Okay.
And I show up, I know no one there.
Right.
And I got second, and I remember I'm sitting at the looking at the results after. Again, I don't know anyone there, and all of a sudden someone like taps me on the shoulder, and they're like, Jared Becker? And I like turn around, and I had no idea who he was.
Sure.
And his name was Wes, but he's like, you used to race my cousin back in Michigan when you were like 14 years old in BMX.
Wow.
It was like, and he ended up being a big part of that team. And he was like, honestly, it was just like, how did this small world just come together like that? And I guess him and I rode to the BMX track when we were like 14. I didn't even
Too cool.
it, but it was just like, what? So
he remembered you.
He did somehow.
Very good.
Yeah, pretty wild.
When you were, as that transition was happening, I know it didn't last long, but were you looking at just like cross-country style racing or anything else into the race world of mountain bike?
For the mountain bike, I was we were doing more like what would be considered like marathon distance.
Yeah.
Was what the team focused on. I personally enjoyed like Olympic distance. It was just so much more in my wheelhouse. Gotcha. I really liked like 90-minute racing. To me is just, I loved it. It fit me, right? Okay. Like it was just very, you know, it's obviously endurance oriented, but like still very high power output. I mean, if you're fit for 90 minutes, you can go very, very hard and very deep. And I enjoyed that. And it was like really intense, which is what I liked coming off of BMX. But my team, they focused more on the marathon stuff. So I kind of like geared myself that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, truthfully, my heart was always with like 90-minute racing. I just thought it was really fun. And I always liked like punchy technical courses were always like my favorite thing. Like,
where's your favorite place to ride around here or race? I should start with racing. What was
my favorite place? One of my favorite races actually was Benelli in California.
Okay.
And it, of course, it's like anything. I loved it because it played to all my strengths. Right. It was like sea level. Right. I tend to struggle a little bit at altitude, so it was like sea level, and the course was fairly technical descents with literally like 45 to 60-minute climbs.
Oh wow!
So it was just like. And there's probably like 10 climbs a lap. So it was just like, I remember it was like, I could just literally go as hard as I wanted up the climb, and pretty much I would blow up right at the top and then descend and like get my breath back and hit it again. And it was just like an hour and a half of that. Nice. So that was kind of, again, I think it was just, especially because that would have been like 2018. I still had like some of that BMX punch. So it was just like the perfect style of racing for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, then once we were doing a marathon, I kind of tried to, I was always like a little big in the mountain bike world, like size wise. Like a
Yeah.
lot of those marathon guys and even obviously ultra endurance guys are small.
Yeah.
So I kind of like tried to like drop a couple pounds and lean out. Just honestly like lost some muscle mass. Just kind of like tried to, you know, and but yeah, I was okay marathon racer.
Gotcha.
I was okay.
Gotcha. You mentioned MBAA. Did you race anything else around Arizona while you in that
Cactus
time period?
Cup,
Of course.
And then otherwise it was just a lot of the Epic Rides races. We were doing a lot of those. But around Arizona, it was mainly just MBAA. Like, Epic Rides, Tour of the White Mountains. Yeah, and all that.
Very good.
Yeah.
And then, so what was the time period? You said it was only a couple of years that you kind of transitioned out of the racing part of it.
Like in 2022, mid 2022.
A couple years at least of some
and that was just
returned.
Yeah, that was just, I was still enjoying it, but it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, like to stay at the level I wanted, or maybe that I felt like I had to be at, I just wasn't willing to train that hard anymore.
Okay.
It was like such a commitment, and it was, I had gotten into I got like a new motorcycle at the time, and I don't know why I'm saying this on camera, but like if you're trying to be at a really high level, especially in an endurance sport, like you have to clock them up. You have to put in the hours.
Yeah.
And I remember so many times like being like, okay, I got doing like a 4 or 5 hour ride Saturday. And then like, I'm just like, all right, probably doing another 3 to 4 hours on Sunday. But it was like, I remember it got to a point where like I was doing those hours on Sunday and it's like, I just want to go ride my motorcycle. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of don't want to do this. I'm just kind of doing this because I feel like I have to.
Yep.
And so I kind of just had to like check my ego and be like, why am I doing this? You know what I mean? So I think racing's great and everything's great, but I think I do think now, hindsight, becoming a little wiser, like I think I started to get an unhealthy relationship with it to where it was just like, I think I have to like just do this for fun again and back away from it on that level. So yeah, I think, like I said, that would be a goal for me in the future, is just to like leave my ego at the door and just like, just because you put a number on doesn't mean you got to be 110% tuned up.
I hear you.
So,
I hear you.
So it's kind of an ego thing for me in the past, but
gotcha.
Yeah.
So now you're just riding for fun.
I do just ride for fun.
You kind of live north part of town.
Yeah, North Phoenix.
What's your favorite area? You mentioned running in the Phoenix Preserves. You ride there too, or
a little bit? Yeah, I can. I used, when I was crazy cross country guy, I could ride to that trail system from my house in like 35 minutes. So I would do that a lot. Now I ride, I don't even know if you know Pyramid. Everyone calls it Pyramid.
Yeah, I know the name, but I've never been up myself.
I just like it because I just play ride now. Like I do a lot of just like, I don't really even clock that many miles anymore. It's just like skill riding and jibbing around on rocks and stuff. And that area is like perfect for it. There's just little jumps and fun lines everywhere. So that's my main spot that I would say I ride. And then there's like Apache Wash out there.
Sure.
South Sonora and stuff like that. That's
very nice. Stuff. Very cool.
Black Canyon Trail, which I know you guys obviously,
you
guys spend some time on. I do love the Black Canyon Trail.
Okay.
That's probably some of my, especially when I was doing bigger miles, that's like some of my favorite stuff. I've done it point to point a few times, and it's epic.
Yeah.
Like it's just the best.
Yep.
It's the best.
Point to point. So you've started like Mayor up at the top, kind of. I mean, I know it goes further a little bit now.
I did it from Mayor to Carefree Highway.
Very nice. Very cool. Yeah, it's a good ride. Have you ever gone up it too, or do?
Not the full thing. I always did. Yeah, I always did down, and a lot of guys that I would ride with, we would start and finish at Black Canyon City Trailhead.
Yeah,
and we'd take a lot like Crown King Road up to, I forget the other name of the road, but it basically puts you in right at Antelope Canyon Road. So it puts you in right there, and then we would like rip the trail back. So we kind of like do the gravel road out.
Yeah,
and that's killer. That's actually so sweet. Yep. But it's funny because if you look at it on a map, you're not that far off far off the 17. But like when you're on that trail,
you have no idea.
I'm in the middle of nowhere, you know?
Yeah.
And when you get a flat tire or something, it's like, I'm in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. I think I'm in trouble.
Yeah. It feels like it's the end of the world. Like, oh my gosh, if anything happens,
it really does. Like it's super
from...
desolate out there, but like it's not, but it really feels like it. Yep. But I love that trail.
Yeah. I don't know if it's DOT did a good job building the 17, or I mean, obviously the trail's been there for longer than the highway.
Right.
But they didn't just like put it on top of the trail, so you're not seeing all these semi trucks whizzing by you the whole time. So it's pretty cool. I agree.
It's such an awesome trail.
I agree. Your Instagram list you also as as a trainer for KTR.
KTM.
KTM,
Yeah,
excuse me.
KTM motorcycles.
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about that, because I looked them up too, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's a race team I've never heard of, and then it's all like motocross and
KTM's
supercross.
big. KTM's big. So KTM is the main company, and then so a lot of people have also heard of like Husqvarna motorcycles. They're under KTM, and then Gas as well. So yeah, I coach the professional off-road racing team.
Very cool.
Yeah. So my job is I'm a coach, a trainer. So I have my own gym, kind of North Phoenix, that I coach clients out of. But then really the whole other half of my business is working with this off-road team.
Okay.
Which is a motorcycle racing team. So I have 13 rider roster.
Very cool.
Yeah. So, and that's a lot of online coaching. Like I'm on the phone with them a lot, and then like looking at numbers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They'll do training camps where they'll come to town and things like that, or I'll go to races.
Yep.
But that's truthfully a dream come true for me. I mean, it's funny, like growing up being a kid watching VHS tapes like every day after school of like dirt bikes and all those guys. And it's like, oh, now I'm telling those guys what to do. So it's pretty cool to be able to work with them. And of course, they're like the elitist of elite in their world. So it's just, yeah. I mean, motocross racers in general are very well-rounded athletes.
Gotcha.
I coach a lot of guys that do different styles of racing, but the majority of them are doing like, 2-hour-ish races.
Yeah.
And, if anyone's ever ridden a dirt bike, not a motorcycle on the street, but like a dirt bike, it's way more than just twisting a throttle. It's like one of the most physically challenging things there is. Okay. So a lot of people don't understand that unless they've done it. But yeah, I mean, these guys are bouncing off above threshold for 2 hours heart rate for sure. And
that makes sense.
Yeah, just muscular endurance is a big thing. But yeah, so that's the whole other side of it.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm sure there's a few listeners and watchers out there who have a motor dirt bike background. If not, continue. They might still ride. Right, it's an easy sport to kind of go bounce between the two.
For sure.
Not myself, so I for me, it's like I don't know what you're talking
about. To the untrained eye, it looks like it is 100. As someone who grew up doing it and will still hop on once in a while, it's 100% one of those sports that is so much harder than it looks.
Gotcha.
Like it's just like you look at it and you're like, yeah, I get it. You're like, I could do that, and then it's just, I always laugh. It's like it's the picture here of like what you think you look like, and then the picture here of like what you actually look like. Right. That's everyone on a dirt bike. Gotcha. You know what I mean? They think they're just like killing it, and it's like your lean angle is like 3 degrees.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So you said this team that you're coaching, or the guys that are on the team, you're not coaching all of them, but you've got a group 13, 14. You said they're which discipline are they in?
So
motocross, supercross. Sorry. Again,
yeah. So I train
I
train the off-road racing team. So there is the motocross and supercross division, and
those are
as well.
Those are ones you see more on like the Red Bull X Games kind of jumping, or no?
You'll see those like right now. The supercross season's going on.
I'm really losing people at this point.
No, you're fine.
Like, who is this guy?
A lot of people are known like on Red Bull TV, if that's what you're thinking of. Like Erzberg, they have like these crazy races. My guys do that.
Okay.
Like my guy got second at it. He's gotten a second and got third this past year.
Okay.
At the top level of that. So yeah, it's big in that. But yeah, so they do a combination like that. I have some guys that do like, there's kind of two sides. There's the guys that do what's like hard enduro, which is like really technical style riding. Those races even can be like 3 to 4. Sometimes some of them are 5 hours, but like really technical. Like truthfully, I just went to the racing page a couple weekends ago. It's like even someone who doesn't know anything about it, you would look at it and it's like right there's the race course. They ride up that, and you would be like, no, they don't. No one rides a dirt bike up that. There's no possible way.
Okay.
And then sure enough, they'd come around and you'd be like, yeah. So they do that style.
Okay.
And then the second half of the season for them is enduro cross, which is kind of crazy because that's like 6-minute races.
Okay.
It's in an indoor arena, and they're jumping over logs and rocks.
Yep.
And then the other side of my guys, they race like Grand Prix style racing or just like desert racing.
Okay.
So that's more like kind of seems like the motocross that you're probably thinking of, jumps and all that style.
Very cool. All age groups, like
the majority. No, so of those, about half of them are like full factory top level riders, and then a lot of the rest of them are like what are considered either on like a satellite team or they're like kind of the up and comers. So they'll kind of do that with me too if they got their eyes on someone.
Yeah.
Which is really one of the guys I have right now who's the top guy. They gave him to me like a year or two before he was even factory, and we're kind of like bring him up. You know what I
Gotcha.
mean? Bring him up into it. And it's cool to see because he was like my first guy I did that with, and he's a man
Like
right
a
now.
top
So it's
prospect
like,
kind of thing,
it's really,
situation.
really cool. They, you know, it's like any sport. They kind of got their eyes on who they want when they're young.
Sure.
And it's just like, there's some potential there.
Yep.
But yeah.
How does training look? Is it a lot of the bike riding and the bike handling skills, but also conditioning the body type of stuff too? Like you're probably doing a little bit of both?
For sure. I actually have a lot of my KTM guys, my motorcycle racers, spend quite a bit of time cycling.
Okay.
And generally it's, for the most part, I have them just do like zone 2 endurance rides with cycling. It's just trying to work base aerobic fitness. I don't have them do many intervals with cycling because I kind of treat the ride time on the dirt bike as interval work. That's where they're getting their intensity.
Yeah.
And we're really trying to hone, you know, obviously they need massive fitness, but at the end of the day, it is a highly skill-based sport.
Sure. Okay.
You can get Jan Frodeno or whatever, one of the most fit triathletes in the world.
Sure.
He's not going to go beat, even if someone's got 50 pounds overweight,
okay,
they're going to still beat him if they know how to ride a dirt bike better than he does.
Gotcha.
So it's like, so for me, it's very important to like, they got to be on the dirt bike, right? Yeah. But yeah, they do a lot of I have them do a lot of cross training with cycling, mainly for like endurance. Some of them I have run, but mainly I'll have them do a lot of cycling because you can just rack up hours without not that running's abusive. You know, a lot of people would say it is. I don't think it is, but it does definitely tear up muscle fibers more. So, you know, I can go have them do a 3-hour zone 2 cycle and they're fine the next day. If I have the majority of them do a 3-hour run, they're going to be trash for a few days. And, and so I do have them do a lot of cycling, a fair amount of cycling. And again, it's like anything, each athlete's quite a bit different. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely not a blanket approach. I have some guys who need a lot more work in that, and some guys who we hardly even mess with it much anymore because it's just not a weak link in the chain. And a lot of so then the other side is quite a bit of strength training. That sport's actually really tricky to strength train people in. I shouldn't even say that sport. Sports are really tricky to strength train people in. Because it's not just about getting stronger, because there's oftentimes, like, I think a lot of cyclists and sometimes maybe even runners have fallen into this, especially if they're not properly coached. They'll start strength training and it'll almost like be a detriment. And so then their instant mindset is, well, strength training's bad.
They go
but
the opposite.
You just have to approach it right. You do. And it generally takes someone with a lot of knowledge to do that. And it's different from sport to sport. Like, for example, with my guys with the dirt bikes, contrary to what you think, because they're gripping so much, in that world, it's called arm pump, but like the forearms get so pumped up. It literally, I mean, just imagine forearm fatigue to the point where you like, it literally feels like the handlebars are going to rip out of your hand. You can't even hold on to it anymore. So truthfully though, where I'm going with it with strength training, I have most of them, again, some of them I can, but work very little grip strength, because actually the more muscle they put on in the forearm, the more blood flow, the more pump. And that's really what you're trying to get away from. So yeah, it's kind of the strength training in any sport. Obviously, as someone who does it for a living, I think strength training is one of the best things anyone can do for anything. But it does have to be approached the right way. And like I said, even I caught myself when I was doing BMX, was very strength oriented. So a lot of time in the gym. I mean, just heavy squats and things like that. But again, we only had to last for 40 seconds max. So it was just like, I mean, the power outputs in BMX are absolutely insane. I mean, there's guys putting out well over 2,000 watts, but they're not going to sustain it for 90 minutes. But yeah, like I even felt myself when I was doing the endurance stuff. It's like I kind of felt myself at times straying away from the gym, because it's like it makes me so sore. My power numbers suck the next few days, and I had to even learn to like really find a way to approach it. And truthfully, strength training or just corrective exercise for endurance, I find with a lot of endurance people, it's about doing corrective exercises and truthfully just kind of working imbalances that get developed from the sport itself. You know, cycling, for example, or obviously running, they're both unilateral and very repetitive, So like, you know, runners or cyclists, both of them really are pretty well known for like their glutes don't really work that well, which can then lead to, I don't want to go to trainer talk here, but that can lead to a whole bunch of like lower back issues. So a lot of times it's just about like an endurance sport. A lot of times the strength training is just like making sure that they can continue to do their sport pain-free. because, you know, the hours that a lot of endurance athletes are putting in and sometimes have to put in, it's repetitive. So if you're not like balancing that out on the back end, I hate to say it, but it's just a matter of time before it catches up. And you know, the goal is to generally do stuff for a longer amount of time. So, you know, I always kind of say with people, the training load should always just be small and steady. But a lot of times people will do these big leaps.
Right.
And then they lead the big valleys, and it's just, you're always kind of chasing. And that, and the problem is those valleys, that's true with weight loss, that's true with anything. Those valleys are really discouraging.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I find with people with anything, whatever their goal may be, it's just consistent progress. Because if they hit these big peaks and big valleys, the more they hit those valleys, the more it's like, why am I doing this?
Right.
Like this sucks, you know?
Yep.
So it's just kind of finding that balance.
Yep. Yeah, the brain is a muscle that a lot of people forget about.
Mm-hmm.
And when the mental piece goes away, and people talk about, you know, and in the endurance sport, they talk about it like while you're in the middle of that run or that bike ride, right? It's like, you know, 30 miles in, and all of a sudden it's just like, why am I here?
Yeah.
Right? But there's more than that, right? There's the whole training, the training block leading up to it. And if at any point you have that little hesitancy, like, am I doing the right thing? It can throw your whole block off. Whereas then your A race is compromised at the end.
For sure.
I decide to take 2 weeks off or something in the middle of, you know, in the middle of it all.
Right.
So
and the mental part of it's a whole nother. I mean, we could do 3 podcasts.
Right.
But that's what's cool about. That's what I really think is cool about endurance and even like ultra endurance stuff is it is such a mental game, and I think that's why a lot of people are so attracted to it. Is it's like this, and that's why I think the endurance stuff is cool. Is a lot of times it's more of a race or a battle with yourself than anything, which is what's really cool about it. And I think that's why people are gravitating towards it more and more. It seems is just like you're not so much stacking yourself up against someone else. It's just like, what's the best that I can do? What you know? Can I just let me just put my shoes on every day and go out for a run? You know, it's. I think that's really one of the coolest things about endurance sport is it's just like it teaches you so much for life. It's just like just doing it, and I think that when you find that people start doing those things and like excelling in endurance sport, you tend to see they start to excel in life. So it's like a cool little crossover.
It is. I remember hearing a quote once, and I think it was on a whole different podcast actually, where it came from, but it was about ultra marathoners and something to the effect, I'm going to butcher the actual quote, but the idea was, you know, basically you live a lifetime within that race.
Yes.
Yeah. You can have the ups, the downs, the ups again,
100%.
You know, all these different things. You will feel all the feels. And of course we're, you know, obviously mountain bike here, centric in this particular broadcast, but it was, you know, I think it was a running particular ultra marathoners. And the whole thing, like just that,
100%.
Like everything can happen in a 100-mile race. The entire you live a lifetime.
It's like you lived 5 lifetimes. It is. That's so funny you say that. Actually, it was when I won the Whiskey 50 at Becker Rides. I literally like it was no one will well except for the people I raced. It was like the race from hell. Like it was just, but I somehow pulled it out. The moral of the story, and it's funny you say that because I literally remember crossing the line and it was like so emotional, like, oh my God, I'm going to cry right now. Oh, wow. Like I was just, because it was like my A race. I wanted to win it.
Yeah.
I won't get into the whole story, but like there were numerous mishaps throughout where I was just like, there it goes.
Yeah.
But I remember I kind of like prided myself after like saying like the only reason I won that race was my mentality. Like I dug myself out of so many holes, and it was the same thing. I just remember coming across that finish line, and I remember literally saying that right after the race. It's like, I feel like I just lived a full lifetime in the last 3.5 hours. Like the emotional roller coaster, the highs, the lows, lows, and then finishing it with the high was just like, wow, that's just so. I wish everyone could experience that stuff. And the cool thing is they can. You know, it doesn't have to be. It can be at any level. Like for some people, it's winning that big race. Some people, it's just completing it, and that's awesome. Like that's the other thing I love about it is it's just like. Anyone can accomplish that. It's just doing it. Like you don't have to be the best. It's just the best against what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
All right. So that being said, I'm racing it this year. Whiskey, the 50. The first time I've done this particular race. I actually signed up for it in 2020. We all know how it went that year. This is my first year getting back as a registrant. I was going to throw you on the spot. Any pro tips from someone who's already completed it?
That course is brutal, and I'm not trying to knock you down. Like that is it's so funny that course specifically, I shouldn't talk like this, I'm gonna scare you. Just to race, it's one thing to ride it, but even riding it's tough. But like that is a very hard course to race, and I'm sure you know about the Skull Valley climb.
Sure. Oh.
That is definitely the crux for
Yeah.
sure. That's kind of where the race starts a lot of times.
Okay.
You know, at the higher levels, there's a lot of action before that.
Yep.
But I think as far as like just having a respectable time, it's really going to be about coming into that with a fresh mindset and like getting into your, you know, because that's probably halfway through the race.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a grinder.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what the course is this year. The last few years, it's only gone like halfway down. It used to go all the way down to Skull Valley.
Yeah.
And I remember at that time at race pace, like high power race pace, it was still like a 55-minute climb.
Yeah, it's a long one.
So, but even how it is now, for the majority of people, it'll probably be an hour climb. So it's just really, and it's usually kind of exposed in the sun.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you all the wrong things.
It's all right. It's all good.
I've been to some dark places on that climb.
Gotcha.
But no, it's really going to be about pacing yourself up to that point, because the rest of the course, assuming as it's like years past, is a little more flowy and punchy.
Yep.
So you can really kind of like find a flow. So I would race pretty good the first part, and then that descent, you can really put some time into people if you're a good bike handler.
Okay.
And then just kind of like finding your flow on that climb, but not overreaching too much, because while the whole like last bit of the course isn't demanding, it's really like punchy.
Okay.
And so if you're like super smoked or on the verge of cramping,
there
can be some issues. And you know about Cramp Hill.
Oh yeah.
I cramped on cramp. Okay, this is embarrassing. The year I won, I walked with my bike up the majority of Cramp Hill. I had a full-on episode at the bottom of it, like cramp up.
Okay.
It goes back to the mental thing.
Yeah.
I always say, I'm like, I swear if no one knew the name of that hill, they never would. But I had like a weird crash earlier in that race where I like tried to get around someone from the 30s.
Okay.
And I said, on your left. And unfortunately, they moved left.
Yep.
And so I literally like crashed. That was part 2 of the unraveling.
Sure.
And when I hit the ground, I tensed up and both my quads totally cramped up.
Gotcha.
And I was like, oh no. So shortly after that section was Cramp Hill, and I came to it. I'm like, all right, Cramp Hill, but you're fine. And sure enough, like 3 or 4 pedal strokes in, I like felt my right quad starting to like pulse. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. And so but once you make it past Cramp Hill, it is a lot of like flowy. It's a really fun course. But
it looks it.
It's so fun. I love the stuff that they added towards the end.
Yeah,
there.
I mean, and I've not had a chance to do any kind of pre-riding up there. I've done some of the trails just in part of doing other pieces when, you know, other random times. But I have not like put it together as a pre-ride, just have not had the time to get up there to do any. So it's going to be really like, you know, completely fresh to me when I get there. Which
sometimes can be fun.
But again, I'm also not in the place where I'm any chance of winning. Like the podium is not afraid of me coming after it. So I'm just going to be out there, like you said earlier, I'm doing my best time, having 100%. A good time. For me, it's just going to be about finishing the race. Which I feel like I'm pretty ready and set in that piece, and of course I'm gonna push where I can.
Just don't put yourself in a hole, but you still want to be feeling like pretty good at the top of that climb. Think of it that way, and you will have a good time. You know what I mean? Just pace yourself to that point.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. We're starting to get a little bit into the getting into the gym, body conditioning and stuff like that. Before I asked you the question. You did say though before we kind of switched into that earlier, you said you wanted to go back and talk about something. I wanted to kind of give you that opportunity. It was more in the mountain biking side, the race team. I don't remember exactly where we were.
Oh, just like
you wanted to kind of go back and hit something because we were going all over the place.
Oh, geez, I'm pretty good at going all over the place.
Yeah. Not a big deal if you don't remember.
Yeah, maybe if it was just about like the strength training. I mean, I don't remember.
No worries.
Yeah.
If it comes back to you, we can always jump again.
Sure.
But I did want to get into the strength training and conditioning. You're a gym owner.
Yep.
ReEvolve.
Yep.
And just wanted to talk a little bit like how long you've been doing that, aside from the other training and stuff that you do and the pro riding, and kind of get into a little bit of that.
Yeah. So I started my business in 2011. And have been, at first I started just like basically paying a guy to use his facility to coach my clients out of.
Okay.
And then in 2014, I got my own spot.
Nice.
And I've since moved to another spot, but so I just have my own facility for coaching my clients out of. So it's just, I do some one-on-one, and then I do small group as well.
Okay.
And do sessions throughout the week. I have a hence the name ReEvolve. It's a very like it's kind of an overused term nowadays, but a very holistic approach to coaching.
And that's what that was really what when I saw that piece, I'm like, I need to talk more about this because you've got a very interesting philosophy. So
yeah, I do.
Spend some time on it.
Yeah. The body is just a system of systems, and it's very important that each system is looked at and understand that each system affects each system.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I very much don't have the Band-Aid approach to my training or my health goals. I'm most likely not the trainer you're going to come to and lose 30 pounds in 2 weeks, because I just don't. I think that can be a good jump start for some people, but I try to really set people up for the lifelong, you know what I mean? And really just like teach them how to work with our evolution.
Yeah.
So the reason I rebranded, that was like 2020 or something, I rebranded to ReEvolve, was just go back to how we were, is kind of what I'm saying, like kind of the caveman thing. But like, I think a lot of people today, we get so lost in quick fixes, Band-Aid solutions.
Sure.
And I think a lot of times people think that the human body's like this broken thing that just needs all these Band-Aids to fix. And it's like, the human body's obviously amazing if you give it the right things, which are generally just really good, high quality food, really good, high quality sleep, eliminating crazy stressors in the life and just balancing yourself out. Like, it's unbelievable what the body can self-heal and how good you can feel.
Right.
So that's really my biggest thing. I was just talking to someone about that a few days ago, because people will always often say to me, they're like, because I do generally cross my T's and dot my I's on a lot of things health related. Like, I'm passionate about it. It doesn't, but they're like, what's your goal? Is just to like live forever. And I'm like, not really, actually. Like, I just want to be vibrant while I'm living, and I think a lot of people don't realize how good you can feel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're just really doing it, I will say doing it right, but like, it's not, but also in the same breath, I think that overwhelms people.
Right.
And my whole thing is to prove to people it's really quite basic. You just got to find your few things, and that's what I do when I start working with someone, is I'll sit down and I have an assessment, I run them through, and it's really just kind of understanding where are like the small, I have like a questionnaire they'll fill out, and they don't know it, but it kind of allows me to see different systems of the body, adrenals, endocrine system, cardiovascular system. And, if they have certain symptoms in it, you can kind of see where there's some holes.
Okay.
And so you're just kind of like giving people, truthfully, just like lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's just lifestyle stuff, and you can get people off gobs of whatever they're taking and make them just feel so good. And it's like, a lot of times it's within a few days.
Yeah.
And it's, I'm very empathic towards people, because the majority of people, they just don't know any better. And that's what kind of bums me out. Like, that's my whole thing. When I was a new coach and a 22-year-old hot-headed, just like thought I had everything figured out, I would kind of be like, what are these people doing? Why are they eating like this? And like, the more I've been in the world, it's just like, most people are trying their best.
Yeah.
They just don't know.
Yep.
They just don't know any better. And so that's really my business, is just trying to point people in those directions. And it's really gratifying, because a lot of times for some people, it's just like, you're only drinking like 1 16.9 ounce bottle of water a day? Like, oh wait, hold on, let's bump that up. And it's like, a lot of times if you just get people to start drinking more water, it's like, wow, I feel really good. It's like, there you go, and yeah, so obviously that goes down many holes, but I kind of have like a framework I take a lot of people through. I talk about it a lot, but it's, I kind of have like the 4 pillars of health, which are like movement, diet, sleeping, and then I call it happiness, essentially, but just like, how well are you living in your life? Like, are you living according to whatever your values may be, because if people are doing something they hate,
right,
it's a really big stress on the body. And all stress, I often say, all stress summates, meaning like, going out and running an ultra marathon is stressful on the body.
Sure.
Getting in a fight with your significant other is stressful on the body.
Yep.
Just as lack of sleep is stressful on the body. So while a lot of people think that's all different stuff, it's all poured into the same bucket.
Right.
And so it's really, life is just about managing that bucket in the best ways you can. And, you know, we also need stress, right?
For sure.
To adapt. You know, I think sometimes people think it's all about like, oh, well, I just need to eliminate all my stress. It's like, it's just like exercise. How do you get stronger? Stress the system.
Exactly.
Give it the rest, and it comes back stronger. Like the body's really adaptable. But yeah, sorry, I'm going off on a rant. But
no,
yeah,
that's good.
it is my passion. Definitely just, you know, I even think nowadays a lot of people think that I just like work with specifically high level athletes, which I love doing that. But man, I love just helping anyone. Like because they're like, I don't know, it's awesome helping people win championships, but it's like also just helping people who have had chronic fatigue for 5 years and now they like feel good and they're going and doing extra stuff with their kids. Like that's awesome. You know, again, it kind of goes back to like that's their championship, you know? So it's cool. It's cool to kind of see that, and it's rewarding to help people with that stuff.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. That was exactly where I was going. Like, you know, everybody's got a championship. And
for sure.
Someone's might be the podium, number one.
Yep.
Someone's might be, you know, being able to spend more time being active with my kids or with my grandkids or that kind of thing. Everybody's got their own goal for the tape, where they break the tape.
And that's usually where I start training, is like find what that thing is that person really, really wants. Because with anything in life, life's going to knock you down sometimes. You know what I mean? It's not always easy. And so you really always need to have that, whether it's a goal or that value or whatever it is, that's like always going to bring you back to like, okay, I need to stay the course. Yeah. You know? And yeah, I mean, I've had, obviously I want to win a championship, and I've also had, I want to be able to get down on the ground and play with my grandson.
Right.
Both of them are equally important to that person.
Yep.
That's what's cool about it.
Right.
Like I said, winning a big championship means this much to that person, and getting down on the ground and playing with the grandkid means this much to that person. It's the same thing. It's all perspective. And yeah, that's what's kind of cool about it.
That is cool.
Yeah.
And I know you said it, you know, it's kind of, you said it, it's overused. I think it's probably a word that can be used a lot. And in the right places, the holistic part. But that approach with your 4 pillars, to give a word to that number 4 would be kind of like we talked about it earlier, like the mental, more of emotional.
Correct.
Like you said, right? It's the where you described it as like where you are in life, happiness, and that sort of thing. And that could be job, family, and there's a lot of different.
That's a big one.
Buckets that go into the bigger bucket,
yes,
right?
Yes.
But it kind of has that, because you had, you know, movement, body, nutrition, food, like sleep, recovery, and then sort of like the whole emotional, mental. Again, which that might be the biggest.
Truthfully, that one is like the
pieces
predictor of all of them.
Yeah.
That one's like the biggest one.
Okay.
And is often overlooked.
Yeah.
That one is huge. And yeah, that's kind of like the chief of them all.
Yeah. Well, opinion. I think when someone, you know, if someone's looking for a trainer, they're looking for that. I want to lose weight. I want to win a race.
Yeah.
I want to gain, you know, pecs. I want to gain muscle. That kind of a physical thing. And there might be some other, you know, body type, I guess, goals in there too. But they're not coming to a trainer usually, at least, right, to say, I want a happier life.
Right.
I want the stress of my job is killing me. You know, they don't come to you and they say the stress of my job is killing me.
Yes.
How can you help me?
And they don't.
how many curls do I need to do for the stress of my job to go away?
And some people don't want to hear it.
True.
You know, but I don't want to get too deep on this podcast, but also some of those people, what they don't realize is they are chasing that end thing.
Sure.
They are chasing that end thing that I'm talking about. They just don't know it, and they're trying to find it in a different way.
Yep.
But we're not going to go too deep on it.
we'll come back another time and talk about
it. That's where I've also had to learn, just from many, many years of doing this, is you also just have to kind of meet people where they're at. And I think earlier in my career, I didn't take a blanket approach, but I kind of treated everyone the same. Like, no, this is big. You need to. Sure. And now I kind of like do that stuff behind the scenes a little more. Even, you know, I kind of had a little thing with when I first got that job with KTM, you know, that a lot of the, that racing world, they don't want to hear you talk about feelings. You know, they don't want to hear like, how's this? Oh, what's going on here?
Yeah.
You know, some of them do, but like a lot of them don't, or they might admit that they don't. So I had to like kind of balance that, and I don't want them to come across like, okay, guys, my coach is just like this hippie woo-woo guy that's talking to me about my feelings, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, some guys that I coach have definitely gravitated more towards that way, and a lot of guys are understanding that. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
That's what we're here to do, is to try to to enjoy it,
Yeah.
you know, to be happy. And, you know, like, it's funny to even go back. I'm using myself as an example too much, to kind of go back to the racing thing. For me personally, it was like, I thought that's what I wanted. Like, it was like, oh, if I win this will make me happy. This. It's like, it's cool. But now that it's done, it's like, oh, it's just a little like drop in the bucket. You know what I mean? So I think that it's just finding what's happy making for you. And sometimes it's finding that what's not happy making for you. And sometimes it's about you get to that goal and it's like, oh, shoot. That wasn't really what I thought it was. This is a little bit of a tangent, but I've been recently, I've been like solid 6 or 7 months now. I've been doing a lot of yoga. I really enjoyed it. I won't get into it too much, but yoga is generally not what people think it is. They think it's just a bunch of stretching. But it's a lot of strengthening, and it's very, very challenging. But anyways, I have been like trying to work into back bends, and I don't know if it's just from years of riding bikes or what, but it's like, okay, I don't think my body works that way. And of course, there's people in the class that are just like folding back like crazy. But where I'm going with this is, at first I was like, oh, I just want to be able to do a back bend. Like I just want, why can't I just do that right now? And then I've really had fun lately with just like, you know, it's kind of cliche to say, but like enjoying the process of it. And like, I'm slowly getting to where like I can do it. I can literally hold a not very good one for like 3 to 5 seconds. And it's like, I'm spitting and sputtering the whole time. Like, you know, and I don't quite have the mobility. That's a whole thing. But it's really been fun to just really like not so much have a finish line on it and just be like, you know what, I'm going to treat this as a lifelong practice. And I'm just going to, kind of goes back to the consecutive thing. Like, I'm just going to get on my mat every day. And I'm just going to, you know, 2 days ago, I sucked, you know what I mean? But I was just like, I'm here, I'm showing up. And that's really, you know, I've kind of geared my life that way recently with that. And I kind of invite people to do is just like, sometimes you just got to show up, you know what I mean? And enjoy that. Like, it's not really about that end result all the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's like someone who wants to lose 50 pounds. It's like, okay, I want to be 50 pounds lighter right now. It's like, that's great. But think of all the things you're going to learn in the process of losing that 50 pounds that are going to help you so much further for the rest of your life. And it's so much more than if I just could be a magic maker that snap my fingers, boom, you're 50 pounds less. It's a really hard thing to wrap your head around, but like, once you can wrap your head around it, I think that kind of is where happiness is. You find like, it's not so much about this finish line. Let me just like go log my training hours. Let me just find enjoyment in like, hey, this week my goal is to ride 4 hours. And in 2 months, I want to be able to start being consecutive with 6-hour riding weeks. Oh, I know this Keegan Swenson's doing 25-hour training weeks. It's just like, that's him. And he didn't start there. Everyone's been a beginner at some point in their life. You know, so I got a little off on that, but I think that's really important. And part of the happy making thing is that you got to find enjoyment in the everyday. For sure. And find enjoyment in the process of whatever it may be. And it's
the journey, not the destination.
It really is. It really is. And it's easy to say that.
It's very easy.
And say that you believe it. And you know, it's hard to practice it sometimes, but it's just that goes back to the mindset thing. What is it at the end of the day? It's just a mindset. Nothing really changes other than what you're doing up here. And once you can kind of wrap your head around that, it's makes life more enjoyable.
It's, you know, yoga is funny that you bring that one up too, because that's been my mindset of like getting back to doing yoga regularly. I was never against it, but it wasn't my thing for the longest time, mainly because it was difficult. Runner, bicyclist, basically those are my 2 sports growing up all the way through. So I'm tight, and you know, hamstrings are super tight, lower back is super tight. Not good for getting into yoga that first class. The second class, it's like, oh, I can't do anything right. You know, yogi's always coming over and doing this, you know, adjusting me. But my wife would take me along, you know, every once in a while, or she would just, you know, buy me here's a gift card for a couple classes at the place down the street or whatever. So I'd go a couple times. Wouldn't last so much. Then she became a yogi. and started teaching. And
Very
I was
cool.
like, so I started going, all right, well, she's teaching a couple times, 3 times a week. I'll just go and hang out in the back of the class and start, not hang out, but I'll sit in the back and I'll get a mat in the back and just, go through I'm saying this all wrong. Boy, not go through the motions, but I'll do it.
I'm showing up.
I'm going to show it.
Give your best ability.
Yep.
Yeah.
And after, I don't know, it's a year or 2 years of pretty consistently doing that, I obviously saw the changes. But I've never been stronger. So you said the thing about the strength.
People have
it was not like, it's not this.
No, it's
like you are like the things.
Sturdy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you like lock into a push-up position
your core,
and it's like, it's like, whoa.
Yep. Yeah. So that's been something I've been chasing the last few years of mine just to get back into it. COVID was our, big interrupter of course, just for all of that stuff. So never got back into it, but want to. So it's kind of funny that you said that. Because those were the things that like triggered with me when it happened, was that I know it's good for me. So I know I should keep doing it.
Right.
And I didn't have a goal aside from getting a little bit more limber.
Yep.
I want to, you're saying, want to live vibrant throughout, however long it is. If it's 100 years, it's 200 years. I just want to be, I don't want to be in a bed.
You live in the years you have, not just try to knock years down.
Yep. So that wasn't, it wasn't like I wanted to do the back bend or I wanted to do something. I just wanted to be limber. And as I saw that happening, I'm like, oh, I can actually do this. My hamstrings will behave if I keep showing up. They will stretch. They will elongate. I'll be able to do some. So, and then of course, like as I'm saying, my journey back is like, okay, got to get back on that horse and start doing it. And
it's for me, it was fun just to kind of like be a beginner at something again.
Yeah.
Because you do make really big advancements. As someone who's gone to the higher level in a couple things, it's like, you train your butt off for this much when you get to the pointy end of stuff. And it's like, like I remember for BMX, like doing like 60-foot sprints and training for like 3 years to get like 1/10 of a second faster. It's like, okay, this is kind of getting old. You know what I mean? But like that, the yoga thing is cool, or just anything in general is cool because it's just, it's really easy to go away from what you suck at.
Yeah.
And often those are the things you got to lean into a little more. Yep. You know what I mean? It's just, it's the weakest link. You're only as strong as your weakest link. But I also think that when you do things that are hard or you don't like or are challenging to you, that's where you have the most potential for growth.
True.
It's if you keep doing things that you're good at to fluff your ego, it's cool. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
But it's really cool to be able to like grow. And then for me, the other side of it is because I honestly do it every day. And even if I don't, I usually do classes 4 to 6 days a week, but if not, I just get on the floor or get down on my mat at my house and do some stuff. And I kind of found I'm like doing this and it's not like I'm like, oh, I can't wait to do it.
Right.
But like even when I do it, it's not like, oh, this is so fun. But I realized it a few weeks ago. It's like, I just like how it makes me feel.
Yeah.
It's like when I'm done with it, I'm just like very centered. I'm very grounded. I feel like very like, can't really be knocked off my base with things. So, and truthfully, endurance cycling does that for me a lot too. Like, I think that's another reason that it's such a popular, running or cycling is so popular. And there are a lot of studies that link to that, on average for people, that 130 to 145 beats per minute range is like your optimal range where like your brain's firing well. And like, geez, the amount of voice memos I've made on mountain bike on like endurance rides, because that's like when all my business ideas or ideas come to me. It's insane. So I think that's kind of the other thing is, it can become like a meditative experience as well. And like, be like, that's kind of what I mean when I said earlier, it's like, it kind of like starts to branch out to other areas of your life. It's like when you go and do something here and it like triggers these things in your brain that like get you excited. Boom, you bring that over to other things. And then those things get you excited. And it's just like this big snowball effect that came from pedaling your bike for 2 hours on a Saturday afternoon, so it's cool. It's everything in life just kind of branches from the same couple things and then they just continue to snowball. And then you're, holy smokes, look at what I'm doing. It's the normalized difficult. If you keep doing really hard things, the hard things aren't that hard anymore. It's true with anything, I teach a lot of, not so much anymore. For years in BMX, I taught clinics, but I still will once in a while do like mountain bike clinics with people.
Okay.
And people always see like these really crazy whatever, they'll see something I do and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, like, I'll never be able to do that. And it's like, it's not really that elaborate of a thing. It's just, I always call it like stacking. It's just like stacking skills. It's just like, oh, well, that wheel lift I just taught you, it's just a wheel lift with this and then this stacked on top of it. So you're getting good at that wheel lift. Now let's teach you this, and then you get good at that. And then you start putting them together. And it's just like, that's life,
Yep.
you know, you just kind of like start compounding habits and then you're flying and sometimes you don't even know how you got there, you
Right.
know?
Yep.
So it's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. So it sounds like with the approach that you take, you have clients that probably are long term or
Yeah.
longer term, right? I think if
Yeah.
you go to a gym, you sign up for the trainer at the gym.
Yeah.
You know, you might stay with them for a little bit, but they're taking on every other, you know, Tom, Dick, and Harry that walks in, and
Right.
Jane who walks into
Yeah.
the gym as well. Sounds like not only, you know, you're a one man person, one man company,
Show.
one
Yeah,
man
yeah.
show, so you're limited probably in the number of clients,
Yep.
but you can give them more time. I mean, you know, with each client, you're dedicated to just them.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
all that stuff, and you're laying out this process with them. And it's a journey. It's not just all right, you know, give me 3 months and we can lose the 30 pounds.
Right.
It's
Right.
stay with me and we can
Correct.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people, you know, people are probably like, oh yeah, that's a sales pitch, so you can keep us forever, right? But like a lot of people that I have, they will get their goal and they're like, I just want to keep coming because I'm enjoying it, and you keep pushing me here, and I'm just getting stronger with this now. But yeah, I do think, you know, there's definitely times when it can be like pushed a little more, like, oh, if you really want to hit this by this date, we can. But yeah, my general approach is just really trying to just teach people the lifestyle.
Okay.
Like, it's just that it's not like this crazy chore. It's not overly hard. You got to find this little balance, but like, because that's the other thing is I think sometimes people think it's so daunting. Like, it's just like, oh my gosh, he must be perfect on how he eats. He wants me to be this. It's like, not really. Like, if you kind of, you know, if you build your body right and, you know, put on some good lean muscle mass and things like that, like, you can slip on your diet once in a while. You can still live life, you know, and I think people get a little too worried about that. So they're just like, you know, I'm not going to mess with it. It's just, it's too much. It's, you know, so it's like anything. You just got to kind of take that first step. And even when I start with people, my whole thing is usually if I start working with someone and we sit down and we do those things, I'll give them like what I just call action items.
Yep.
I don't give them more than 3.
Yeah.
No matter if they got fires in every pillar, I'll still just give them 3 because you don't want to overwhelm them.
Yep.
Most people overcommit themselves anyways. So if you just give them these 3 things, they might look at it like, really, that's all you want me to do is start drinking half my body weight in ounces of water and go to bed by 10 o'clock each night and start logging this? Like, that's too, it's like, just start there because, you know, otherwise it becomes a bigger stress if you give them too much stuff. And then they start to do that stuff for a few weeks. And then all of a sudden they've normalized difficult. All of a sudden that's easy.
Right.
So then they'll come to you like, hey, what more can I do?
Yep.
You know, it's like if someone tells me that, I'll ask people a lot, like, how much time do you have to devote to exercise a day? And they're like, oh, like an hour. I'm like, cool. Start with a half hour.
Yeah.
Do a half hour. And if you're someone who's pressed for time, that half hour starts when you walk in and out of the gym door. So that might actually only be 20 minutes.
Right.
That, you know, that's fine, but create the habit, create the framework.
Yep.
And then after your 20-minute workout, you'll be like, I feel pretty good after 20 minutes. I want to go 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's how it happens. And that's how you, in my opinion, you set people up for long-term health. Otherwise, if you do, I'm not going to mention any names of programs or anything, but, you know, there are the ones where you can get lean and mean and super dialed in.
Instagram's full of them.
Which is why it drives me that world. Yeah.
Yep.
But they're not sustainable.
Right.
And then, you know, those people, because it was such a stretch for them, the second it's done, they'll often balloon back or whatever it may be, because it's just like, sorry, you can't sustain that, you know? So it's just steady in my opinion. Again, it's, you know, I can get people results quick and still teach them lifelong things.
Sure.
But I really find a lot of value in just steady and controlled.
Yeah.
Like, and the longer I'm in this world and the more I'm around it, the more social media becomes a thing. And when you're in, it's like when you're in the world and you see everything that's being posted, you're like, oh my gosh, this is just like killing what people need to be doing.
Right.
Like, they are just detracting so far from what people really need to be doing. You know, you just hope that people listen to you a little bit.
Sure.
But you know, that's kind of all in due time at the same time, you know, and maybe that's just that person's not ready, and that's totally fine. You know, I think I've said that on like actually other podcasts I think before too, but like sometimes the way I talk, and, I give my talk, I'll give like talks at my gym sometimes on the blackboard, and, of just nutrition or whatever. And I can tell like one of my classes, a lot of like 16, 17-year-olds, I can tell they're looking at me like, but I sometimes like it deep down, it used to kind of like, but I think of myself back at that time, and it's like, I would have done the same thing.
Sure.
What's this guy talking about? So a lot of times it's just like, that's fine. This person's not there right now. And maybe right now that person needs this quick fix little to get their,
Yeah.
So it's not, I'm not saying it's the only approach, because everyone's at a different spot in their life. And I think it's important to understand that.
Yeah.
But, I just find for long term, it's not about like becoming an exercise nerd. It's just about just incorporating it into your life so that it's your everyday and it's not even a thought. And then you enjoy it. You actually find like, oh my gosh, when I go ride my bike, or I go to the gym, or I go run, or I go do this, it's like, wow, it actually makes me feel so much better. You start to crave it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of power in that.
Cool. What do you tell people when, or what's your approach when people have that little backslide moment? They, ate the whole chocolate cake, or didn't work out Tuesday, or
you're a human. It's I think it's really important to recognize that stuff, and I guess quote unquote slap them on the wrist, but be like, it's okay. Like we can bounce back, because everyone's gonna slip up.
Yeah.
Again, you know what I mean? There's gonna be slip ups. It's knowing that if you're nailing it the majority of the time, I'll use kind of 80-20, but I usually do 90-10. Nail it 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And you can slip 10, because in the same breath, if you try to get someone to be perfect, it's kind of like if they're having to do this workout every single day. If you try to make them be perfect, it's not sustainable.
Exactly.
And it just causes people to be like, you know what? Screw this. This is silly. I'm going to go eat that cake or whatever. Like I'm going to,
Yeah.
So I think it's just understanding that a lot of things in life are 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and it is the journey, and there are going to be bumps in the road, some of them that you don't cause maybe, and some of them that you do cause, but it's not, it's not so much how much do you get knocked down, it's just getting back up. And being able to recover from that and reset and recenter and come back to it.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Some programs you'll see they'll actually have it like built in. So using your 90-10, like it's automatically like 10% you get Sundays off, or you get, this or whatever. And I've always wondered if that was, because I believe in that whole, yes, you can't be perfect, and you can't just go, all right, I'm going to go 100% until I get to the goal, because you'll vary at some point, and then we've already talked through that piece. So I've always wondered, I'm like, is the programmed cheat day, the right philosophy versus just knowing maybe mentally, and as a trainer, mentally, all right, he or she's gonna slip, it's gonna happen. I'm not gonna tell them to. I'm not gonna say this is the day or this is how you can, or we don't make it a part of the program. But we just understand when it happens, and we walk through it, and we reset the expectations. Versus, all right, Sunday you blow it out. Anything you want.
I prefer
come back to me on.
I prefer just kind of like knowing that, like, hey, if you're out with some friends on Friday night and you want to have a little bit of extra dessert or something, that's fine. I do get a little worrisome with people if they have like a cheat day or a cheat meal, because then it's almost like this thing that they look forward to all week, and then they just go and totally blow it out.
Right.
And it's like, okay, crap, here goes another week of what I hate just so I can make it to this next day again. So I kind of find just like understand, just live your life at the same time, because that goes back to the happiness side of things. If you're super fit and crossing your T's and dotting your I's and everything, but you're miserable, are you really winning? I don't think so.
Exactly.
So you got to be able to enjoy yourself a little bit too. And I think there's a lot of magic in that, but it also depends on the personality type. You say that too. You say that because I honestly find a lot of people are very strict and very focused, to where I can say that, like, hey, nail it 90% of the time, but if you slip 10, it's no problem, and that's great. But you say that to other personality types, and that 10% becomes 20, and it becomes 30, and then it becomes 40. So like always, it's you have to train people different depending on what they need, but also what people don't realize as a coach is you're really learning how to work with personalities, and that's a whole thing that schooling for it will never teach you. And I truthfully think that's another subject, but that will separate coaches more than anything, is being able to understand people and treating people different. And I got some people I can say suck it up and get it done, and I got other people that I'll have to like embrace them a little more and be like, okay, it's okay. Like, so you messed up. That's all right. Let's get back on it. And there might be some guys, it's like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Get it together right now. You know, a lot of my like racers, they respond better to that. Like, you know, they want someone to be stern with them. Some of them do. Some of them don't. But, you know, generally in the competitive world, some of them like to be a little more, they want someone to stomp their foot down.
Yeah. That's a great segue, because I was thinking along, you know, the course of my life, you know, I've met trainers and coaches. I've met shrinks, counselors, and life coaches. I've met nutritionists. You kind of do it all, and you know, a little bit of each, right?
Yeah,
you know, your 4 pillars kind of, you know, hit into. Where do you go for your training? Where do you go to like learn the stuff to then pass on down? How did that look on your end?
Yeah, honestly, I've been to like done quite a bit of schooling at other places and institutes and things like that. At this point, I do just a lot of reading.
Okay.
A lot of it is like just kind of digging into things on my own.
Yeah.
And also at this point too, a lot of it's just experience, like being in it and like being boots on the ground with it every single day.
You said 2011 you started? Okay, so yeah, you've got
and actually I've been, so I'm 37. I'm going to be 38 soon.
Okay.
But funny enough, I was coaching people starting at 19.
Okay.
Yeah, and then like I said, so when I was like 22 is when I really started like professionally doing it.
Yeah.
But I've always kind of been coaching people, so I've always just kind of like had that in my, you know, I've just kind of always done it.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of it's just experience and kind of like, you know, the pitfalls too, right? Like it's not like I even necessarily have it all figured out now. I think that's also a very important thing to understand, is that I'm always willing to learn, and I'm always maybe even willing to change my viewpoint, because how many times has science proven what we once thought is not, you know? So I think that's also the big thing, is to be a student for life and just always, you know, never be fully set in your ways of like, this is it. If you're, you know, because I don't think that is true, because I always say there's things that are happening right now in our bodies and that science still can't explain, but they're still happening.
Sure.
So it doesn't mean they're, you know, just because we can't put a scientific formula or a meaning to it doesn't mean that it's not already happening.
Yep.
You know, so for me, it's just kind of, and to go back to the ReEvolve thing with all that, it's just like, I used to have this thing. I was like, I'm going to make bracelets that say, what would a caveman do? Right. Like, like, because to me, and that's ReEvolve, is we're still cavemen. You know what I mean? So what do we need to do? We need to eat real food. We need to focus on getting real movement. We need to have real human interactions, you know? And I think things like that are a lot of things that kind of can send us spiraling nowadays. The food quality is really bad for a lot of people. A lot of people are not eating well. Some people are eating great. You know, there's a whole nother talk of like even the nutrients in the soil are down. Like there's legit things that are an issue. But anyways, the food can become an issue. You know, some people are really struggling with sleep. That becomes an issue. Most people hardly interact face to face anymore. That becomes an issue. You know, you don't have that like small village, small tribe feel. So that is the reason it's called ReEvolve, is going back, like health. When I'm in doubt, like, I don't know, what should I do health wise? It's just like, what's the most natural thing? You know what I mean? Like, what is the most, like, you know, people always ask me the diet thing, and I always kind of make the joke, but also not really. I just say, I'm like, if it wasn't here 10,000 years ago, don't put it in your mouth.
Sure.
You know, you can really keep it that simple. Yeah. If it doesn't come from the earth, it's maybe not real food, you know? And again, that's not always true, obviously.
Sure.
But, yeah, anyways, so that's like, you know, I can get very scientific and I dig into a lot, and I have had a lot of schooling and I do have a lot of knowledge, I'll be honest. But sometimes it's just going back to basics, which is just like, what's the most natural thing, you know?
Sure.
And yeah, it's kind of interesting. That's why I've even studied a lot of like, even like Chinese medicine, and of course, like even how old is yoga, right? Like there's so many things in the more like different styles, and I am kind of geeking out on a little bit. You look into it and it's just like, when you read into it and look into it, it's like, they knew everything then. They knew it all. They're talking about, you know, everyone's acting like this new breathing. It's like, it's written in Sanskrit so many years ago. Like this, they've known this forever. They've known about, you know, eat this for this, and this energy system is doing this. And so it's just kind of funny that we're like more advanced now than ever, but in some ways we're like more disconnected than we've ever been. We've forgotten a lot. And I think that's really kind of my goal, is like that it's not this big elaborate thing. It's just like kind of becoming a little more caveman, you know, and it doesn't mean you go live under a rock and stuff, but it's just like, for me, it's just, it's, you got to move, you know. You know, I just read an article the other day where they're like, what's one of the best things you can do for skin health? And they were saying 20 to 30 minutes of sweating every week. It's like, okay, these are all things that are built in if we just do what we're supposed to do. Go move. Boom, you sweat. Look at that. Turns out that's great for your skin. Turns out that's great for cleaning toxins. Turns out there's a whole laundry list of it. But it's like, people don't need to know that laundry list. They just need to know, go move. Go get up and move, you know. Stress your body and then get good sleep and let your body recover. Stress your body and then eat good food and nourish what you just broke down, you know. So it's kind of another thing I've had to do over the years, is like, I think sometimes I've overwhelmed people and make it seem too complicated, because it can get complicated, especially if you have people coming to you with like numerous health things going on. It does get complicated and you need to have knowledge to approach it. But a lot of times it's also really basic. And a lot of the fixes, again, are just getting back to basic things. And, you know, again, it's, most people can do those basic things. They just, a lot of times, like the amount of times I talk to people and I just see like the light bulb go on in their head of like, you can tell that it never even crossed their mind. Is unbelievable. And you know what, I always say this, you know what they almost all say when I say something kind of basic or they just go, huh, that makes sense. And I'm just like, I know, why aren't we doing this? But you know what I mean? It's sometimes it's what you just have to like stop and think, and it's like, you're right, it does make sense. Why? Like, duh, why aren't we just doing that? You know, like the movement and the sweating, it's just like, oh, that makes sense. That would be good for your skin. So, you know, but
what would the today you tell the 19 or 18-year-old first-time coach?
That is a great.
Doesn't have to be like a big philosophical, but you know, you're a coach at 18. That's a big thing, right? I mean, it's you're young already. Obviously, you're probably, you could be in the sense of ageism. That's not the right word, but you could be coaching younger kids. So that's very young at that point, or older adults who may not want to listen to an 18-year-old. What would you tell that 18-year-old?
Meet people where they're at. Meet people where they're at.
A little too much pushing at that point for you,
or just assuming that everyone, just thinking that I had it figured out, I guess. You know what I mean? And just thinking that everything was black and white, and thinking that like, well, you just got to eat better. Why aren't you eating better? Hey, hold on, you're still not eating good. Why? Just do it, you know? And so as you get older, you start to realize like, well, some people have a lot of stuff going on in their life. And some people, you know, I even have that reality check now of like, I push like really high quality eating, and I ideally try to have people buy organic and really good meats and da-da-da-da-da. But there's also the reality that it's really expensive. And if you got a family of 5, that may not be feasible. So then it's like, okay, we have to watch that. This is a legitimate thing, you know? So I would say if I could go back, meet people where they're at, accept them where they're at, and just put the advice on the table. That's it. Just set it in front of them and leave that up to them if they want to grab it.
Very nice.
Because I think that even, not even 19-year-old Jared, but even mid-20s Jared, I think I felt like hindsight was maybe shoving it in people's faces. And it's like, I've learned that you just kind of put it out there. If they want to grab it, they'll grab it. And if they want to know more, they'll come and ask you more. That's it. Leave it there. So that's what I would say.
What's your favorite of your 4 pillars? What's your favorite?
Movement. I mean, I love moving. I'm a very active person. Makes me feel good, but I enjoy it. You know, the bikes, the hiking, and for me, which they really tie in, the movement ties into the happiness, because for me, which is why mountain biking was such a big push for me, I just love being in nature. Like that, most people who know me know this, but like, I'm just a nature nerd. Like nerd. Like, so I just love to be like, I've lived here since 2010, and I'll still just like go out in the desert and be like, this is awesome.
Right.
Like a saguaro is still cool.
Yep.
I'm excited for spring. So when things start blooming, it's just like the most amazing thing.
Yep.
So yeah, and that's where mountain biking and hiking and backpacking or camping or whatever, the movement is my happiness.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It really ties into all of it. Yeah, because I just love being outside.
Very cool.
For sure.
What was the change like? So we talked a little bit offline before we started. You know, from the East Coast, you came from Michigan.
Yeah.
Similar, at least more similar to each other than to here, for sure.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
What was your first impressions coming into Phoenix, and were you quite as nature a nerd when you first got here and experienced those 115-degree days and that searing heat and all that stuff?
That's funny that you bring it. I've never even really thought of it, but I don't think I was as much of a nature nerd then.
Okay.
I think definitely. I just love out west. I just love out west, and I always kind of knew. I actually remember I've told this story a lot, but I remember being in second grade. And like knowing I was getting out of there. Yeah. Like I remember sitting on the heat register at my school and like telling all my buddies, like, I'm not going to live here forever. And I remember them all being like, oh, you're so full of it. You. And I just like weirdly enough at that time knew I'm like, I'm going to get, and I didn't know it was going to be Arizona, but I'm just like something about out west. When I had a coach for a while who's really the one who got me excited to become a true full-on coach.
Okay.
But it was when I lived in Michigan and he was in California. And I remember I went out to train with him for a week. And it was February in Michigan. And I remember getting on the plane and it's canceled because they got to de-ice it.
Yep.
And then he lives in San Diego.
Okay.
And so I fly there and we were doing a sprint workout on the bikes that same day, that evening on the beach. And I remember just being like, why?
Yep.
Am I not here?
Yeah.
Wait, this exists?
Yeah.
I thought everything was miserable. And I know some people love winter and that's cool too. But so yeah, but yeah, your original question, it was, I just like, in a weird way, because it is different. I just like the lifestyle out here more. It's just, and I love, for me, being a nature nerd, there's just so much public land out here.
Yeah.
And in like Michigan, like most of it's private land.
Yep.
You know, if you want to go camping, you got to go to a campground that's got surrounded by campsites.
Yeah.
Like literally here, you can just go camp.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yep.
So that was really the biggest thing. And I do think that is, I had never thought of that, but yeah, I mean, moving out here is kind of what sparked my love for nature. I always liked it, but I still remember coming down the 17 for the first time with my car loaded. I had like a roof rack with like 3 bikes on top and then 2 bikes in the back seat and then the rest of my crap.
Wow, yeah.
But I still remember the first time like rolling down the 17 and like literally looking at the swallows in the mountains and being like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And now it's like a miserable thing that you have to do on the weekends coming home from Flagstaff.
With everybody else on Sunday afternoon. Yep. Do you like winter? I mean, you kind of made a comment about it not being so great, but
I hated it.
Did you? Okay.
I hated it. I couldn't ride my bike. I literally used to ride my bike in my basement.
Okay.
And so that's like literally I would just make a little square and like practice like track stands and stuff.
Sure.
There's, I've gone up to Flagstaff a couple times this winter just to kind of like feel it. And I did go home to see family not that long ago and it was cool to be in it, but
it's good to get back out.
You don't have to shovel sunshine off your windshield. It's much better.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same way. We'll go back in the summer.
Yeah.
We'll go back in the winter. I'll enjoy it while I'm there, but I'm definitely glad to get back out here where it's, 70 degrees in December and January.
My family, like my mom and dad and my brother, they all still live back there and they love it. They love my dad loves the 4 seasons and I can understand it. Sure. I think maybe at this point in my life, I could get into it a little more and, maybe get into some more winter sports and things like that. But I don't know. I don't love the snow. It's not even like snow. I don't love the cold. And that was my whole thing. People are always like, I can't believe you moved to Phoenix. And I always said, I'm like, I will take triple digits over single digits any day.
Yep.
Any day. I just hate that cold that like just bites you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it just goes through every garment you're wearing.
You can't. And once your feet are a little cold, it's like, I guess I'm just gonna be cold the rest of the day.
Yep.
Yeah.
It did take me for when I moved out, and I moved actually to California first.
Okay.
I was there for about 4 or 5 years. before moving here. So I had a bit of the, not to say mono season, but, it's warm pretty much all the time. Still coming into the heat of what Phoenix has to offer.
It's a beast.
It took me a while. I will admit, I was
beast.
not the happiest person in the beginning, but to what you're saying too, I didn't have that. I've always been an outdoorsy person myself. But I wasn't at a spot right then where I was being an outdoorsy person. I wasn't running. I wasn't biking so much. I wasn't doing anything. So for me, it's like, oh, walking from the house to the car sucks.
Yeah.
Walking from the car to the buildings, like
Right.
who does this?
Right.
Let's go back somewhere else. It wasn't until I started running again and getting out on the bike again and meeting people on the trail and becoming more, okay, I'll trade number and we'll go ride together and run together next weekend, and meeting friends and actually doing it on a regular basis. And I'm like, I can do this. I'm like kind of, I'm back into it. I'm back into like the old self. How I was growing up and a younger adult too.
That's cool. Yeah,
it was kind of just took the whole like getting outside again,
normalizing the difficulty
nerding myself out, because I love it. I kind of get the same thing again. I think it must be something where it must be environmental, where we don't have the cacti, right? It's a very different environment where you just sometimes look at a saguaro or a prickly petal or whatever it is, prickly pear. Prickly petal is a race. Is a race.
Good race. Race that one.
I'm dropping our races here in the middle of a. No, but you look at some of these plant species, cacti species, and you're just like, oh, how does it do that? This is 150 years old. How is this thing still standing up?
Nature is so rad.
So it is. It's a pretty neat thing from just the oak trees and maple trees and
totally. East. And I think that's kind of where like it's fun to just like always be a kid in the sense of like just having that wonder and like that amazement of just like, oh my gosh, and you nerd and you learn like, oh okay. Barrel cactuses are always leaning southwest because that way they have the least exposure to the heat. And it's just like you start to learn, and it kind of goes back to the ReEvolve thing. It's like evolution and nature has got this figured out. We got to quit getting in the way. Quit getting in the way.
Progress gets in the way sometimes.
But anyways, that's again taking it health. But no, nature is so cool. It's funny you say that because I just went to Wildlife Zoo last weekend.
Okay.
It was like the most fun I've ever had. And I'm just like staring at some of these animals, just like what a crazy thing, and it's just like, I think it's really fun actually to live. I do become a little kid often, but I think that's part of happiness. And I think a lot of people can find a lot of happiness and enjoyment in life by kind of being a little bit more of a kid and kind of finding the wonders in things.
Yeah.
And kind of like being a little more excited about like looking at the ostrich at Wildlife Zoo. And it's just like, whoa, look at the ears on that thing, and they look weird, but I know if I went and researched it, there's a reason his ears do that, and that's really cool. And it's like, why does a giraffe have a neck? Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's really, I think life becomes more exciting when you kind of realize that there's a lot of cool little wonders in it, and it's like really fun to just like, whoa, this is cool, So, and I think that is what I get when I go outside, and it's just like, see this mountain littered with a bunch of choyas or something, and it's just like, huh, okay. And then, I don't know. It's just cool. I'm being a nerd now, but
I'll have to put a disclaimer on this one. We devolve into nature nerdism towards the end of this podcast.
I could do that for a long time.
If you're only into mountain biking and could care less about where you're actually riding, maybe stop around 40 or so minutes.
Exactly.
I'm not sure exactly where we're at time
but
wise.
Most mountain bikers are probably secretly nerds.
Of course they are.
Most of them are, and that's kind of the cool thing is it pulls you into that world. Like that becomes your gym. You know what I mean? Or that becomes your whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean, just the amount of conversations that people have about the different places they've gone, or two people online talking about, one's from the Pacific Northwest, one's from here, and they're talking about roots and rocks and mud and sand and sharp rocks.
Crazy.
And sand. It's like, and it is. So we're all into it in one way.
Sure.
You just maybe don't don't realize
it. Don't realize it. And that's like what the world is with the racing and stuff, and you don't realize it. But it is really it's kind of fun to realize it sometimes.
That's awesome. I wanted to, like I said, I really wanted to delve into the fitness aspect, which I think we've covered pretty well. I don't know if there's anything that we didn't cover from your fitness standpoint. If there's anything you wanted to talk more about. I would say we
covered most of the bases.
Let's let everybody know where they can find you then. If anyone wants to reach out, get some training or maybe just consultation, kind of a talk, where should I be? Right. How do they reach you?
My website is reevolvelife.com. So you can go on there, and there's even like a form you can fill out to contact me.
Cool.
You could also always email me, jared@reevolvelife.com. And then I'm not overly active on social media, but My ReEvolveLife.com is for my business,
Okay.
and then Jared Becker 976 is for my Instagram. And then yeah, those same with Facebook or anything like that.
Very cool.
But yeah, I'm trying to become more active again on social media. I used to post a bunch of fun bike stuff,
Okay.
hopping around on the back wheel or something. So got to get back to that a little bit. But yeah, those are the main places to reach me.
Do you use it for the business more at all, or is it?
I want to
really
start.
okay?
I want to start.
Kind of.
It's
just another thing, right?
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, I hate. How am I trying to say this? Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to like feel like a salesman or anything.
Okay.
I just like,
No
yeah, I don't. I kind of hate promoting myself in that way.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I need to get going more with my business one. Just to, truthfully, just to like kind of put content out, little blurbs and things of just to like, I really just want to give people little advice that they can just do on a daily basis. That's like this one little thing that again usually compounds and just makes them feel better.
Very cool.
So sometimes I have to get back to that. I used to make like little videos just kind of with little insights on stuff.
Sure.
But, yeah, I think because while probably 90% of people scroll past it and don't want to hear it, which is fine.
Yep.
You might resonate with that one person that's at a point in their life that it means everything to them. So
that's all it really takes.
That's really all that matters is just if you can help that one person, then it's worth the 300 that probably scrolled past and said, "This guy's full of himself. I'm over it."
I'm going to Lifetime.
Yeah, totally. He's talking about cacti again. I'm out of here.
I don't understand what this has to do with me.
Exactly. He's talking about my feelings. I'm over it.
Very good. Well, thank you, Jared, for coming down. This is a great conversation.
It was fun.
Very illuminating. Some very cool ideas and some really cool background too. I didn't quite know all the background on the BMX stuff too. So it's fun to hear about.
That was the foundation of it all for riding bikes. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, again, thank you, and thank you everyone for listening to another episode. This has been a great conversation, and we'll catch you all next time. We here at Aravaipa Rides would like to thank our partners and sponsors. First up and coming back for the 2025 race season, our charity beer garden sponsor, Oso Brewery and Distillery. Oso crafts delicious beers at locations around the valley. There's always a brewery near you. If you live in the South Mountain area, Emigos Bike Shop is the shop for you. This year, Emigos is partnering with Aravaipa Rides, so all of you racers can bring your bike in for a pre-race tune-up or a post-race workup and get preferential scheduling to get you back out and riding quickly. You can also save 10% on all merchandise and supplies from the retail store as well. Savage Bike Shop in Surprise, Arizona will be rolling out its mobile mechanic van to all of the Aravaipa Rides races in 2025. Call them ahead of time to schedule a quick pre-race check-in at the race venue, or in case of mishap on the trail during your race, they'll help you get your bike going again so you can finish strong. Please help us to thank our partners and sponsors by visiting them when you can.